Hi, it's Pete from Lay and Play. Just wanted to give you a rundown on the 91 Honda Civic that we've been putting together. Dropped a video on Tuesday. This is the switch panel. This is where you hit the switches to make the car lift and drop. This would normally be in the dashboard, but at the moment it's just loose set up, just so you can get an idea of how it all goes together. We've got two main switches, one for the front of the car. When you hit the switch, it takes power from the bank of batteries through a solenoid, which is basically a starter solenoid, to the motors, takes fluid out of the pump, out of the tank, through and into the lines and down to the rams, and then when you hit the switch down, it returns the fluid through a dump valve and back into the ram. So when you hit the switch, you can hear the motor spin, and when you dump it, you can hear the fluid return back. If we move around to the side, you can see the hydraulic ram where the original strut used to be. To convert a strut into a ram, it's quite simple on these Hondas. Take the coil out and the shock absorber out and replace it with a hydraulic ram, and then bolt it in place. And then these are side ported, so you can fit the hose onto the top of the port there, and that's where the fluid goes in. Similarly on the front, we have an original strut, shock absorber and coil. Take the coil out, take the shock absorber out, and it leaves you with the wishbone and the top mount. This ram, which is slightly different to the rear because it's flipped upside down, is mounted to the top and to the bottom mount, the same as you would with the original shock absorber, and then hose round to the front. You might be wondering how then you get any sort of suspension, because without any coil or any shock absorber it would ride quite rigid, and in the video you'll see it bouncing around, skipping on the surface. If we go back around the back, the car is fitted with accumulators, which is quite similar to what Citroens have. These are teed in to the original line, so if you wanted to run a accumulator, you could turn it on or off. With it switched off as it is now, the accumulator does nothing. You've got no suspension whatsoever, so it's good for shows, good for playing with. And then when you come in to drive it, if you turn that accumulator on, it lets the fluid go into the accumulator, which is basically a shock absorber. So it's half filled with gas, and the fluid presses up against it. This is still in its build phase, so there's still a lot of work to do. As you can see, there's a lot of messy wiring, but it gives you an idea of how it all goes together. Thank you very much. Good night. Swoosh! Just hi, it's Pete from.
So, alright guys, it's Pete from Lay and Play. So.